Preface to the original Emerald Tablets. According to the document, the tablets date back 36,000 years BC and are accredited to Thoth, the Atlantean priest king, who returned to Egypt to establish civilization following the destruction of Atlantis. He was credited with building the Giza pyramids, wherein he preserved his ancient wisdom and knowledge for future generations of humanity. His reign is recorded as lasting from 50,000 BC to 36,000 BC, during which he imparted his civilizing ways upon the barbarians he encountered upon his return from Atlantis. Thoth is supposedly an immortal being, having overcome death's sting. Upon his departure from Egypt, Thoth erected the Great Pyramid over the entrance to the great halls of Amenti. High priests and appointed guardians of his hidden knowledge were appointed to guard the knowledge vault. The descendants of these guardians eventually became pyramid priests, who deified Thoth as a god of wisdom, the one whose records illuminated those in the age of darkness. After he departed, legends arose relating the halls of Amenti to the underworld, where the soul passed after death for judgment, aka the biblical hell. It is claimed that in later ages that the ego of Thoth could be transformed into bodies of men as described in the tablets. Recall the Atrahasis account where Enki chose a god to sacrifice, transferring his energy, soul, into the Adapa during the genetic trials. Is this a similar trick that Ningshita Thoth was taught by his father Enki? Each tablet, including the supplements, will be analyzed and summary lessons gleaned and correlated with the ascension focus of this book, finding our way out of the holographic simulator prison we find ourselves in. The writer, Dorial, claimed to have connections with the Great White Lodge affiliated with the Egyptian priesthood. His position appears to be significant, signing the supreme voice of the Brotherhood. He claims he was instructed to recover and return the Emerald Tablets and deposit them at the Great Pyramid in Egypt. He was given permission to publish a part of the tablets. Incredibly, the material composition of the tablets is purportedly emerald green and manufactured through an alchemical process, rendering the historical stone impervious to ionization or destruction, resistant to all elements and substances. Accordingly, the atomic structure is permanent, with molecular bonds impervious to breaking. The engraved characters are the ancient Atlantean language, which responds to attuned thought waves, releasing the associated mental vibration in the mind of the reader. Reference 10. The wisdom contained in the tablets is the foundation of the ancient mysteries. For the one who reads with open eyes and mind, his wisdom shall be increased 100-fold. The history of the tablets translated in the following pages is strange and beyond the belief of modern scientists. Their antiquity is stupendous, dating back some 36,000 years BC. The writer is Thoth, the Atlantean priest king, who founded a colony in ancient Egypt after the sinking of the mother country. He was the builder of the Great Pyramids of Giza, erroneously attributed to Cheops. He incorporated his knowledge of the ancient wisdom and also securely secreted records and instruments of ancient Atlantis. For some 16,000 years, he ruled the ancient race of Egypt from approximately 52,000 BC to 36,000 BC. During that time, the ancient barbarian race, among which he had his followers, had been raised to a high degree of civilization. Thoth was an immortal, that is, he had conquered death, passing only when he willed, and even then not through death. His vast wisdom made him ruler over various Atlantean colonies, including the ones in South and Central America. As noted, when the time came for him to leave, he erected the Great Pyramid over the entrance of the great halls of Amenti, placed in his records, and appointed guards for his secrets among the highest of his people. Also stated in later times, the descendants of these guards became the Pyramid's priests, by which Thoth was deified as a god of wisdom, the recorder, by those in the age of darkness which followed his passing. In legend, the halls of Amenti became the underworld, the halls of the gods, where the soul passed after death for judgment. During later ages, the ego of Thoth passed into the bodies of men in the manner described in the tablets. As such, he incarnated 3 times, his last being known as Hermes, the thrice-born. In this incarnation, he left the writings known to modern occultists as the Emerald Tablets, a later and far lesser expose of the ancient mysteries. The tablets translated in this work are 10, which were left in the Great Pyramid in the custody of the pyramid priests. The 10 are divided into 13 parts for the sake of convenience. The last 2 are so great and far-fetching in their import that at present it is forbidden to release them to the world at large. You folks get them, so this was an old statement. However, in those contained herein are secrets which will prove of an inestimable value to the serious student. They should be read, not once, but 100 times, for only thus can the true meaning be revealed. A casual reading will give glimpses of beauty, but more intensive study will open avenues of wisdom to the seeker. Now, as a word as to how these mighty secrets came to be revealed to modern man after being hidden so long. Some 1300 years B.C., Egypt, the ancient Chem, was in turmoil, and many delegations of priests were sent to other parts of the world. Among these were some of the pyramid priests who carried with them the emerald tablets as a talisman by which they could exercise authority over the less advanced priestcraft of races descended from other Atlantean colonies. The tablets understood from legend to give the bearer authority from Thoth. One particular group of priests bearing the tablets immigrated to South America, where they founded a flourishing race, the Mayas, who remembered much of the ancient wisdom. The priests settled and remained among the Mayan people. In the 10th century, the Maya had thoroughly claimed the Yucatan, and the tablets were placed beneath the altar of one of the great temples of the sun god. Following the conquest of the Mayas by the Spaniards, these cities were abandoned and the treasures of the temples forgotten. It should be understood that the Great Pyramid of Egypt has been and still is a temple of initiation into the mysteries. Jesus, Solomon, Apollonius, and others were initiated there. The writer, Dorial, who has a connection with the Great White Lodge, which also works through the pyramid priesthood, was instructed to recover and return the Great Pyramid, the ancient tablets. This, after adventures which need not be detailed here, was accomplished. Before returning them, he was given permission to translate and retain a copy of the wisdom engraved on the tablets. This was done in 1925, and only now has permission been given for part to be published. It is expected that many will scoff, yet the true student will read between the lines and gain wisdom. If the light is in you, the light which is engraved in these tablets will respond. Now a reminder again about the material aspect of the tablets. They consist of 12 tablets of emerald green formed from a substance created through alchemical transmutation. They are imperishable, resistant to all elements and substances. In effect, the atomic and cellular structure is fixed, no change ever taking place. In this respect, they violate the material law of ionization. Upon them are engraved characters in the ancient Atlantean language, characters which respond to attuned thought waves, releasing the associated mental vibration in the mind of the reader. The tablets are fashioned together with hoops of golden-colored alloy suspended from a rod of the same material. So much for the material appearance. The wisdom contained therein is the foundation of the ancient mysteries, and for the one who reads with open eyes and mind, his wisdom shall be increased 100-fold. Read, believe or not, but read, and the vibration found therein will awaken a response in your soul. In the following pages I will reveal some of the mysteries, which as yet have only been touched upon lightly either by myself or other teachers or students of truth. Man's search for understanding of the laws which regulate his life have been unending, yet always just hidden beyond the veil. This veil shields the higher planes from material man's vision, the truth that has always existed, ready to be assimilated by those who engage their vision by turning inward, not outward, in their search. In the silence of material senses lies the key to the unveiling of wisdom. He who talks does not know, but he who knows does not talk. The highest knowledge is unutterable, for it exists an entity in lanes which transcend all material words or symbols. All symbols are but keys to doors leading to truths, and many times the door is not opened because the key seems so great that the things which are beyond it are not visible. If we can understand that all keys are material symbols, are manifestations, and are but extensions of a great law and truth, we will begin to develop the vision which will enable us to penetrate beyond the veil. All things in all universes move according to law, and the law which regulates the movement of the planets is no more immutable than the law which regulates the material expression of man. One of the greatest of all cosmic laws is that which is responsible for the formation of man as a material being. The great aim of the mystery schools of all ages has been to reveal the workings of the law which connect man, the material, and man, the spiritual. The connecting link between the material man and the spiritual man is the intellectual man, for the mind partakes of both the material and immaterial qualities. The aspirant for higher knowledge must develop the intellectual side of his nature, and so strengthen his will, which is able to concentrate all powers of his being on and in the plane he desires. The great search for light, life, and love only begins on the material plane. Carried to its ultimate, its final goal is complete oneness with the universal consciousness. The foundation in the material is the first step. Then comes the higher goal of spiritual attainment. In the following pages, I will give an interpretation of the Emerald Tablets and their secret, hidden, and esoteric meanings. Concealed in the worlds of Thoth are many meanings that do not appear on the surface. Light of knowledge brought to bear on the tablets will open many new fields for thought. Read and be wise, but only if the light of your own consciousness awakes the deep-seated understanding which is an inherent quality of the soul. Introduction to the original interpretation. Doriel provides a meta-analysis in his introductory interpretation and explanation of the sacred texts. He makes an interesting statement as to the veil which has been imposed on mankind's search for meaning. Viktor Frankl wrote a seminal book called Man's Search for Meaning, in which he explored the idea of ultimate freedom, which he taught could even be found behind the bars of a prison of war camp, the event that inspired him to write the book. This need to know our primary questions is seminal. Who are we? How did we get here? And where are we headed as a species? These questions strike at the heart of the quest for life's meaning, according to Doriel. Man's search for understanding the laws which regulate his life has been unending, yet always just beyond the veil, which shields the higher plane from material man's vision. The truth has existed, ready to be assimilated by those who enlarge their vision by turning inward, not outward in their search. As discussed in Chapter 3, it should be clear that we are electrical beings, and this composes the holographic veil between the material and spiritual world alluded to by Doriel. This enslavement is the basis for the supposition that we are segregated from the frequencies which represent higher consciousness, and not just within the visual spectrum either. This is an electromagnetic issue which manifests in the design of the sensors that we as humans are equipped with as meat modems. Our direct environmental sensors are but a few, whose functions include seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling. Recall as an example that our vision is quite limited, only spanning 400 to 700 nanometers in wavelength. For those who prefer it in frequency, 400 nanometers is 7.5 times 10 to the 14th hertz, and 700 nanometers is equivalent to 4.285 times 10 to the 14th hertz. Figure 13, Electromagnetic Visual Spectrum Limitations. As one can plainly see, the visual spectrum for humans is quite narrow. Imagine that we could see into the near-infrared or the ultraviolet range, which sandwiches the rainbow-color spectrum we perceive. Perhaps we would find out that we are not alone. In this case, the physical visual veil spoken of by Doriel can be understood scientifically. Thus, searching for meaning in the transient material world is discouraged, whereas an internal search for the areas where energy meets matter is where the quest must be focused. So, for those of you headed to the military surplus store to acquire some night vision goggles or infrared binoculars, consider the advice from Doriel. Go within yourself, optimizing the chakra wavelengths where the energy vortices within the body animate our physical matter. We hear poorly as a species, limited in frequency from approximately 10 Hz to 20 kHz. Consider that even dogs hear more effectively than humans, and most predatory birds and cats have not only night vision, but better range and sensitivity to light. Perhaps if we evolve as a species or get another genetic upgrade, we could utilize solar radiation via our pineal glands again to regulate our skin color and energy absorption like an iguana. Nature's creatures are far better equipped than the Anunnaki primitive workers are, combat equipped with useful sensors for the electromagnetic spectrum interface to the holographic veiled simulator. All symbols are but keys to doors leading to truths, and many times the door is not open because the key seems too great. The things which are beyond it are not visible. If we can understand that all keys, all material symbols are manifestations and are but extensions for a great law and truth, we will begin to develop the vision which will enable us to penetrate beyond the veil. Reference 10, page 4. As Doriel's statement about material man's vision and an inward focus, this is reminiscent of the teachings of Jesus in the New Testament, as well as Buddhism and other spiritual disciplines from around the globe. As a reminder, controversy arose in the religious community regarding the interpretation of the phrase, "the kingdom of heaven is within." This is where energy meets matter in our physical bodies. The first statement about the physical eye sensitivity range has been discussed by me many times as the quintessential example of our sensor limitation, a visual clampdown by the Anunnaki. We see what they want us to see in the simulator. Most control mechanisms are hidden from the populace. If we could visually sense a larger spectrum, what might we discover? Consider the benefits of thermal sights. The military uses this capability projected onto a heads-up display, or CRT, allowing operations in complete darkness. Coupled with a pilot night vision system using a noble gas, electricity, and light, amplification techniques allow us to operate like a predatory owl, minus the depth perception one would expect as a binocular viewing telemetric meat modem. The great search for light, life, and love only begins on the material plane. Carried to its ultimate, its final goal is complete oneness with the universal consciousness. The foundation in the material is the first step. Then comes the higher goal of spiritual attainment. Reference 10, page 4. In my spiritual path, a relational generalization has emerged as I connect the dots regarding this statement. We begin as children, establishing a sensory understanding of the objective physical world. Eventually, if paying attention, our relationship to objects can be categorized as intelligent or not. Generally speaking, where there is order among the objects within which one is given stewardship, then an intelligence is operational. The opposite is also true, in that where there is disorder, there is little or no intelligence applied to the material involved in the scenario of one's imagining. No relationship, symmetry, is sought to order one's material world, since there is no understanding of the nature of beauty and structure, which I theorize creates function and energy. Thus, functionally, the human body is a bidirectional communication vessel that is meant to utilize energy from the environment to augment our feelings of beauty. Compare and contrast the energy and feel of a room that is intentionally arranged by a trained decorator, optimizing functionality and symmetry, feng shui if you will, with a disheveled dump that has no material order. Beauty is structural symmetry, and this applies to inanimate objects as well, optimizing the energetic feel we perceive with our senses. Sensing the difference between the two states is designed to move us toward the truth that we are, indeed, electrical beings. Once we establish an intelligent relationship to the material object world, the next relational generalization can then be applied to non-static objects, other beings, and animals. This is also a horizontal relationship involving stewardship among other sentient beings in the simulator. Recall in Genesis, the Anunnaki declared that mankind would be fruitful and multiply, having dominion over other animal kingdoms as stewards. Recognizing that all are enslaved in the simulator, a sense of compassion can be fostered for the downtrodden, and, through a loving heart, overcome the judgmental labels we attach to the unwanted in an attempt to make ourselves feel more empowered and in control. This is an illusion. "If you did it not to the least of these, you did it not to me," is a statement Jesus made and really sticks with me. Finally, once the horizontal relationships are experienced, both animate and inanimate, this lesson can be seen in the context of a sequence leading to a higher goal, energy optimization in our bodies, where higher consciousness resides. When we can overcome judgment and begin to empower others along their spiritual paths, we are then ready to work more closely on the vertical relationship with our creators, the Anunnaki. This is where the internal focus leads to a perception of the intelligence broadcast on a different mental frequency. Intelligence is the bridge for the material brain to the electromagnetic spectrum, where controllers of the layered holographic veil reign supreme. One must be dedicated to the acquisition of knowledge, often hidden in symbolism in plain sight. Concealed in Thoth's written gift to humanity are esoteric meanings. Read and be wise, but only if the light of your consciousness awakens the deep-seated understanding, which is an inherent quality of the soul. Reference 10, page 4.